So I have always defined travel as my college, as my school of life. So every country that I go to, I'm always learning about not just the culture, but also learning about myself. So my legacy is to be that cultivator, is to be the one that sparks the change. I may not fully be the change, but I'm going to be the one to empower you and motivate you and inspire you to be the change that you know you are meant to be, to live your purpose out loud. Whether that's through me, because I've been confidently telling my own story, and in return, I will empower others to tell their story, which will then result in sparking change.
Welcome to the Pay Me and Plane Tickets podcast. I have Zaakirah Muhammad with us. She is a storyteller, a traveler, an advocate for embracing diversity through travel. And I'm actually really excited to have you on because I found it when we talk and when I've learned more about you, it's not just about travel. There's a mission actually in every step that you take, every flight that you're on. And I really kind of wanted you to sort of shake up the podcast a little bit with that type of energy and that knowledge that you have. So, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
It's glad and for the listeners, once they hear this, we will be connected even further at the Black Travel Expo, which is taking place June 27th to the 29th. So, if you are in the Atlanta region where it is, come say hi. We'll gladly welcome you in with open arms. But to kind of get this conversation started, let's just start from the beginning. Where do you hail from?
Yeah, so I like to say I hail from the East Coast because my mom's from New York. I like to let her New York come out. My mom from New York, my dad
Yeah,
from Tennessee, and then I'm from Florida.
that's right.
But
That's
then
what
we
it
met
is.
in Atlanta, Georgia. So my siblings are from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. And so I just like to say New York, Atlanta, Florida. Just like you know the song
Yeah,
Houston,
yeah.
Atlanta. So it's like New York, Atlanta, and Florida.
No, I love that. And yeah, yeah, you're pretty much an East Coast cat like me. Yeah,
Hmm.
But I would say I'm probably more so just a Northeast cat because a lot of my roots are in DC, the DMV area, and we kind of migrated up north to the New York, New Jersey area.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you on that. Now, when we talk about travel, and a lot of it is a luxury, but did you have any experience traveling in your early days and sort of the come up, early days and come up life?
I did. So my experience of traveling was kind of sort of inherited. One, my mom, if you follow astrology, my mom is a December baby. She's a Sagittarius, so she's always got to be on the go, no matter what. And then she ended up meeting and marrying my dad, who was a Vietnam veteran. So then he also had always got to be on the go. So by the time they had me, I'm the youngest of three. I was the only one born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Remember, I said people are from
Yeah,
Atlanta, Georgia, right? I'm the
yeah,
only one born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So that was the first opportunity of, okay, we got to take a road trip, go show her and introduce her to family. So that really technically started when I was 3 years old. I don't have that many memories, but one of the memories that my parents always talked about was the first time going west, and it was
okay,
my first time seeing taxidermies. You know, those frozen
yeah,
or killed animals that the restaurants would keep, and you can hang it on
right.
the wall. Now, mind you, I was 3 years old, and it would probably be something like 3 o'clock in the morning. I just woke up, and we're in a restaurant eating, and the first thing I see are dead animals staring at me. So my parents always laugh and tell that story because they're like, she would freak out at the taxidermy. But again, so many memories at the age of three, traumatic memories to me, but it's memorable because I started so young.
Yeah, that's definitely a memory for like, it almost could be kind of a shock memory, being at that age and that young when you kind of see that and you can't really comprehend it or even understand what it is in the moment. But yeah, I like that it's a first kind of travel trip over there. Because when you're young, you don't really remember these sort of inaugural trips that you kind of take with your family. But I'm glad to hear that you actually grew up in sort of a movable family because that's it's not as common, but also it helps burst the bubble of sort of wherever you grew up in the particular neighborhood. You got to see other things in other places. Do you have a perhaps a first trip that kind of was solo, maybe just for you, something you wanted to take out and go explore for yourself?
Yeah, that actually didn't happen until I was in my 20s. So I did a lot of travel in between that time. My first international trip was to Costa Rica. I was a freshman in high school. No, eighth grade. No, one of those. I was somewhere
One of them somewhere over
somewhere around there. But my first country, I was in school and I was with a group and we went to Costa Rica. So
there.
I did that for a while. I did a few study abroad group with groups. And so my first solo trip was actually to South Africa. And so what I did was Essen Festival at the time had a maybe 5 year or so partnership
Mhm.
with Durban, South Africa. And so I went to the first one. This was in 2017, 2018, and
Mhm.
it's supposed to be 5 years, but we know what happened after that, so it
Yeah.
didn't last that long. But it was my first time choosing, okay, I'm gonna go to South Africa by myself. It was also the power of Facebook groups. I wasn't necessarily by myself because I knew there were other people that were gonna go, and I ended up meeting them in person over there.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I was also married, but my in-laws at that time were living in Germany. So I was like, okay, let me country hop. I did all of South
Oh,
Africa,
yeah.
there's Durban, and then there's Cape Town, and then there's Johannesburg, and then I flew and did 2 weeks in Germany. So that was my first solo trip. Yeah.
Wow. No, that's an I can relate to that because South Africa was a monumental trip for myself, but that's in the way that you put it, you kind of did the furthest point in the world and
Hmm.
then went all the way up north,
Yeah.
Germany. Like I'm assuming you went to Frankfurt and places like in that city area, maybe in the suburb area. But those are like such a contrast, right?
Yeah.
And with those what I call very pivotal trips where it's kind of self-driven. I know that was South Africa, but then also through relations, it was also through Germany. Those type of trips. Was that where you kind of picked up a sense of greater purpose, greater meaning, and falling in love with travel? Was that kind of when you kind of were bit by the travel bug?
I think the travel bug did first bite me in Costa Rica, but
Gotcha.
I think I want to expand on the travel bug bit me for the love of Africa when I first went to
Mhm.
Ghana. I went to Ghana in 2011. By this time, I had just finished high school, so I finished high school or secondary school, and I had what I call a gap semester. So I went to Ghana, and the minute I stepped foot in Ghana, it felt like home. Little did I know that when I did my DNA test 12 years later, it is home actually. But that was the first time, stepping onto the motherland. And so it was
Right.
really different from, Costa Rica. Costa Rica is beautiful, so much nature, so much kindness. But then when you get home to the motherland, it just hits different. And from the minute I spent my 2 months or so in Ghana, because that was the study abroad program, where I was also volunteering abroad with a program that is called
Mhm.
like the Peace Corps before the Peace Corps, so
Yeah.
Crossroads Africa. I knew that I wanted to make it my mission to do more African countries.
I see. You know what? I agree. And once you step into Africa, which I believe is a very unexplored, the narrative isn't spoken much about Africa. There's a lot that awakens inside of each individual once they finally touch ground into whichever country in Africa that they actually get to touch ground in. And so I appreciate the way that you kind of put it as Ghana was sort of one of the ways to go, and then maybe South Africa kind of even expanded and expressed it even more.
Mhm.
So over time, how many African countries have you been to?
Yeah, I love to say it in chronological order. Of course,
Okay.
when there's time, there's always a story behind each country. But first with
Right.
Ghana in 2011, then with Gambia in 2014, and Senegal in that same trip. All you have to do is cross over the border, drive over the border, pay
That's
your
it.
little fee. That's it. And then South Africa.
Uh,
And then just recently in 2024, Kenya.
Beautiful. Oh wow. That's
Hmm.
a heavy list right there. Any favorites among them or you want to kind of keep that secret on the
So
on the DL
far,
right now?
I mean, every time I go to a country, I'm like, oh, I love this country. It adds on. So I think I'm just gonna be biased and say because I just came from Kenya, I love Kenya.
You know what? Yeah, I like that. Playing it safe, play it cool.
Hmm.
Um, all right. So we spoke earlier before. You have an ancestral route, since we're talking Africa, but you have an ancestral route, a connection to Frederick Douglass. How are you holding? How's that weight on your shoulder holding on you?
Oh man, all my life I had to fight, but no. But the story behind that is my mom was a librarian for a majority of my childhood, and so at one point, well, there are two things. She was very active in her family reunions and knew that history, but she
Yeah.
didn't know. She only knew what she knew. She only knew what she was told. But when she was able to get her hands on our family tree in the Library of Archives of all things, that's where she was able to even show it to me of like, look, this is your grandma, this is your great grandma, and this is how we're related to Frederick Douglass. And so further up the family tree, it's actually split in half. Of my side specifically is descendants of Stephen Bailey, which was Frederick Douglass's like half brother. So it's still not far from the tree, but yeah, I am a descendant of Frederick Douglass. Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that in there because that was an interesting fact that you kind of told me about yourself. And with that type of connection, you just have to sort of, I don't know if maybe for you, but I'm very sure even when other people hear that, that's a very heavy sort of thing to take in, and like people kind of feel transformative once they hear that, like, oh wow, uh such a legacy that you're sort of carrying. I wonder if maybe you kind of, and you did explain that you did kind of have that sort of same change in yourself too when you once you've discovered that.
Yeah, but it was a good thing too because there's some moments where you're so deep into whatever your circumstance is at that time that you forget
Yeah,
that you come from greatness. No matter
right.
whether it's related to somebody famous or not, you forget that you come from greatness regardless. So it's heavy, but it's also powerful in a way.
Right. And I agree. And the reason why I also bring that up is because you're a mission forward individual. Frederick Douglass had a mission, and his mission still continues. And that I think that type of spirit lives through you, in a way. And you're an advocate for embracing diversity. You're an advocate for, I would say, improving the travel ability for disabled individuals. Can you speak more to how did you fall into that batch and that sort of mission where you're
Yeah,
going? Yeah.
well, it was another one of those missions that called my name. So when I was 9 months old, I had a surgery to remove my right eye because at my 6 month checkup, my mom discovered, or after the second opinion, she realized and was told that I was diagnosed with a rare childhood eye cancer called retinoblastoma. And typically, it's found in children under 13. And if it's not detected and if the tumor is not removed, it can later spread to the brain. It can affect your hearing. So I am a proud survivor of a childhood eye cancer. So I wear glasses because now there's a bit of glaucoma in it, but in my seeing eye, sorry, let me say that. So in my seeing eye, I have a little bit of glaucoma, but I have one prosthetic eye. So it looks, well, when you see me in my photos and my videos, it looks like, wait, you have one eye? So that's me. And then later on, as a result of the radiation treatment, I lost my hearing just a little bit. So sometimes I also wear a hearing aid as well.
Yeah.
And so that really just became my calling because again, if you look at me, if you talk to me, it doesn't look like I'm disabled. So I had to advocate for myself first and foremost. So my mom had to advocate for me to get that second opinion to go file the medical malpractice lawsuit. And then I had to learn from her as well as my teachers through school how to advocate for myself. And
Mm.
so that continued on even when I started travel. Because ironically enough, my very first trip out of the country was with a group of other people who were hard of hearing or completely deaf. So then I had to learn how to, use sign language as well. Or one of my skills is lip reading. So being able to advocate for the hearing impairment, the vision impairment, and just no matter, even if I don't physically have a disability and I'm not necessarily neurodivergent, I know how to be empathetic and advocate for others now too.
Wow. Basically, through your scenarios, you've almost had to adapt to an environment that most travelers or most individuals will never experience or even have the wherewithal to understand what's happening or even how to approach that situation. And I bring that up because I ask in the just to sequester it to the travel community, the travel industry, the hospitality sector, in what um, areas of travel do you see a flaw in how by design and what they're not providing for the disabled community, or and in what what experience have you had where you've noticed those flaws, where personally, hey, look, this is something that's lacking, and it's possibly due to the fact that it's an unknown, nobody ever thought about it, if that
Yeah,
question
so
makes
I
sense.
think I'm glad you asked the question, and I think I'll start kind of backwards. So, with me being in Kenya, that was also my first time traveling with my mother, who also has a severe arthritis and osteoporosis.
Mm.
And so she had a physical disability. And so, if I don't ask for the wheelchair for my mother, it's not gonna automatically be, hey, can I help you? Can I bring this wheelchair for you? Nine
Right.
out of 10 times, there's no immediate questions of how can I help you? I see you have a physical disability. How can I help you? And then on top of that, Kenya is really good with Airbnbs. However, those Airbnbs are not fully accessible. Again,
Right.
going back to the physical disability, I was in a wonderful Airbnb, but the bed, if you're plus size or you need to get a wheelchair in there, you're just
Get
gonna have
through.
to wobble your way in there because it's not gonna fit. The
Wow.
wheelchair is not gonna fit in the door, barely will
Mhm.
fit in the elevator, and will not fit in the bathroom or the bedroom. So the Airbnb could be a little bit bigger. And then also I think even with now, if I don't put it on my ticket ahead of time
Yeah.
that I am, deaf, which means hard of hearing, or blind, which means, visually impaired, they'll just be talking to me like any other person. And I'm like, listen to me carefully. I cannot hear you. Please speak slowly. Please be more patient with me. Right?
Right.
Normally
Right.
it's the other way around, but no, sometimes I have to remind people to also be patient with me because I need to be able to see you and hear you to understand where do I need to go. Am I missing my flight or not? Is my flight moving
Yeah.
or not? So those situations are still kind of overlooked, but understandably because I mean, there's 1 in 4 people will have a disability, but there's a lot more people that have invisible disabilities, and it is often forgotten about. And it just takes just being more empathetic.
Right. And also, everything you said also sounds like, because when you mentioned, being in Kenya, being at an Airbnb that didn't have enough space for uh, proper sizing or even for the wheelchair, it sounds like also regulation. Because when you think about, let's just take it like to the Western societies where you have these sort of regulations with the hotel companies where they have to have certain dimensions for whatever it is to properly offer to all different individuals. When you think about I guess this would be the short-term rental space, which it's a bit more unregulated, a bit more flexible or creative. And with that creativity comes lack of creativity and not seeing the other areas that they may need to cover uh, to better service a wider audience. With your agency, with your consulting firm, are you seeing you're making inroads and sort of pushing a larger agenda needs to be serviced?
You know what the beautiful thing about brand strategy and visibility is that even if you're not doing it publicly, you are doing it privately. So really, ever since I did do my TEDx talk in 2024, that where I talked a lot about what it was like traveling with my disability, that really opened the doors for the question to be asked, and that way for me to give an answer. But usually, it was always just me privately advocating or privately observing
Mm,
how other people struggle so that I can make sure that whoever comes up after me does not struggle as well.
right.
So a lot of my consulting previously has always been for those who are disabled, how to empower them to advocate for themselves. But nowadays, it really just seems like because I'm already up there with the experience, with the confidence, with the certification, that now it's the other organizations are coming to me and saying, okay, how can I make this better?
I
So.
like that. And it all starts with communication. They're coming to you, they're actually seeing your um, presence kind of growing larger and saying, hey, this actually is an issue and a problem that needs to be solved. Do you run into a scenario or into the case where a disabled individual feels discouraged in traveling? And do you also have to kind of provide a bit of motivation? Hey, take that leap of faith, take that chance, just as yourself.
All of the time. And a lot of it, especially with the physical disabilities, because it's so much more energy draining just to move, just for them to get out of the bed, to get into whether it's a wheelchair or crutches or a cane. So to think about sitting on a plane and getting to the airport and going through a bunch of people, it's just like
Yeah,
nerve-wracking for them. So a lot of time that's where my consulting and empowerment starts. Just what is it that you want for yourself in your life first? And now, how can we use the tools that are already out there for you to be able to advocate for yourself so that you can have a smooth, peaceful trip?
oh, beautiful, beautiful. And I like to see that it's growing a little bit more positive through that and through your sort of mission and sort of your speech there. When what do you see, what do you take away from travel? Kind of as now you're more mature, you gain a little bit of life experience. What are you kind of subtracting out of it when you go out there?
Yeah, I think one of the rare facts about me is that I didn't do a 4-year traditional college. So I have always defined travel as my college, as my school of life. So every country that I go to, I'm always learning about not just the culture, but also learning about myself. So travel is and will always be my school of life.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it is a school, honestly. I'll tell you that. There's so much that you learn that you didn't expect to learn wherever you land. And so there are things that I can also, I can co-sign what you said, where you take away something that you didn't initially intend to particularly impart or sort of have. Um, the do you when I talk to business leaders about this, and you're one of them in that space, how do you manage it all? How do you balance your mission, the business, and yeah, how do you manage basically both of those two weights? Because at times the mission can be pretty much progressing, but the business is definitely like feeling the brunt of it. Or sometimes the business is becoming so successful that the mission is getting lost. How do you as a leader balance it?
Yeah, it's definitely uh, a sense of being organized and being productive. But I think even for me personally, if there are those moments where I'm like, okay, which route do I take today? There are two things that I keep in mind. These are always some questions that came up, when I'm always looking for inspiration from others. So if I'm reading other memoirs, listening to other podcasts. But there are two questions that came up to me that remind me and bring me back to surface. One of it is, what do I want my legacy to be? That's the first question I always ask myself, even if it's one of those difficult situations. And the second thing is I remind myself that I have promised myself that I'm going to make an impact over income no matter what the outcome is going to be.
Interesting. I like that. And if I may ask, what do you want your legacy to be as you're trudging through all this?
Absolutely. So my legacy is to be that cultivator, is to be the one that spark the change. I may not fully be the change, but I'm going to be the one to empower you and motivate you and inspire you to be the change that you know you are meant to be, to live your purpose out loud. Whether that's through me, because I've been confidently telling my own story, and in return, I will empower others to tell their story, which will then result in sparking change.
You know what? And I feel the spark too. I'm not gonna lie, I do feel the spark. I do.
Yeah.
I do. So, you got me. So if you win one, you won them all.
Yeah.
I know you have a few projects coming up. Do you mind sharing a few things about that? I know you have something you're working on in Kenya, a lot of volunteering opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, so my big focus right now is Kenya. The minute I landed into Kenya was through a volunteer opportunity. I was able to volunteer at an orphanage, and at that orphanage, I was able to help them open up a photography studio. So I think one thing that kind of, you find it when you Google me, but I like to reiterate that because my life was saved by a camera, I then was able to use a camera to tell my own perspective of
Wow.
how I see life differently. So even if I'm not, having photography client, photography and storytelling is always, always, always going to be a part of me. So now I'm able to, in a way, give back by empowering the 13 to 18-year-olds to tell their stories and understand how to use the cameras, no matter which evolution of a camera it is. So that's what's happening in Kenya is that I did start the picture studio. They've been taking amazing pictures. They even started with a Canon certified photographer to really learn how to use the big bad cameras. Um, and I realized also that because there's still so many misconceptions about the country of Kenya and Africa as a whole, I am now kind of opening up group trips, but also going right back to brand storytelling and creativity. So some of us just need to just relax and calm down. But while we do that, you do that on the beach, you do that while building your brand, you do that while building your legacy and building your purpose. So I'm definitely going to be opening up some very intimate slots, a few less than 12 people, where we're going to just spend a weekend together to just build our brand and immerse in the culture. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. And when we spoke to a few different leaders who are into curating particular trips, but also advocating for whatever mission they were necessarily, going for. Let's take your case, an example where it's advocating for disabled travel, safe disabled travel, sort of this acceptable sort of disabled travel. Um, would you adopt sort of the same concept of like a blue zone map? Like here, you can go here, these particular places, or like what Zidonia Pagod is doing with Pink Coconuts and the LGBT community. Like here's where you can go. It's safe. Like we have the itinerary for you. We know this particular Airbnb or tour operator is operating with those respects. Would that be a model that is adaptive to what you're doing too? Like somebody who is disabled can go and reach out to you, and you can give them the hey, go XYZ here, play in these particular areas, and it's good as gold for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now it's just I know who to go to and what places to go to because I've been to so many of them myself. I'm still trying to work out which format it's going to be for everyone else since it's going to eventually become a frequently asked question. But yes, absolutely. I've been doing the research and going through the troubles myself so that nobody else has to do it as
Yeah.
well. So I definitely know the places and the people who are understanding and the places that already are, fully aware of how to be accommodating.
Oh wow! Now see, look, the business is booming.
Yes.
The business is booming. All right, Zakira, we know that you have a massive day ahead of you, but we like to ask these pay me in plane tickets quirky questions to kind of see where you where you land. So it's a little bit of a pop quiz, but I think you're ready.
Okay.
All right, so we know we love cash, but if you had to be paid in plane tickets, which airline are you choosing?
Of course, I would. Well, okay. Now that everybody's merging like crazy, that's hard to answer. But I think currently the Delta is still the biggest one that will go everywhere.
Delta.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Delta would be the one where it's like that's it. And, you fall right into the pretty much middle of the pack. Most would go with, Emirates, Qatar, some of the Middle Eastern ones, but yeah, the Delta's a safe bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you do travel, is it Airbnb or hotel?
Airbnb because make I like to have the option of okay, can I cook today or can I not? Not every hotel has that stovetop microwave air fryer option. So Airbnb, so I can choose if I want to make my own meal or microwave a meal or just go out and eat as a whole.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I like that. I like that it's a little bit more flexible than a hotel, and sometimes also just a price saver. When you do travel, do you have a particular credit card or debit card that you use for points and miles, or just cash like me?
Um, I literally as of my last trip today, there's so many advertisements about the Amex card. I'm like, I need to get my game up because there was so many advertisements about it on my just most recent flight. But I'm actually currently doing Discover. Discover has a really cool cashback and points value system. Because I would always doing slow travel, so I'm not traveling as much as Amex
Right.
card usually would, for example. So Discover, travel card work for me currently.
All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And actually, slow travel's better. Where you're someplace for an extended period of time, you get to take it more. You're not just, you know, checkbox,
Hmm.
kind of traveling a little bit. So Yeah, I can agree with that. When you do travel, is it check bag or carry on?
I've been doing so much better with carrying on. I'm just gonna pat myself on the back with I've been trying to do so much better with carrying on. Let me just say that.
Team carry on with you. When you board the plane, is it a window, aisle, or dare I say middle seat?
Window me, please. I want to look outside. I don't want to see no big people.
Yeah, Erica Badu in this way. Window seat. Don't want to buy next to me. I got you. We talked about the good things travel's brought us, you and me both, but do you have a travel pet peeve?
Mm. I think it is starting to irk me. Like I can understand why you want to stand up as soon as the plane's down because you've been sitting for so long. But where are you going? Like there's no priority when you get off. Sure, I can understand there's a priority when you get on. There's no priority when you get off. Sit down somewhere.
You are in line with the masses. Everybody says that. They don't get it. They're like, we just don't understand. You can't go anywhere. If you're not row one, you might as well just sit.
Mm-mm.
Um, where are you flying off to next?
I wanted to conquer all of East Africa. I don't know what's going to be first, but I do want to do the rest of East Africa. I think what most people don't know is that you can actually get an East African visa. Like if you're going to go to Kenya, you can go to Kenya and Tanzania and Uganda on the same visa. I've only did Kenya, and I don't think I'll get that visa yet, but I do want to go to more East African countries.
I can agree with that. You definitely got to share some more information about the visa process because that's a lot of gray area that people just don't really explore or don't have much of the knowledge behind it. So you definitely
Yeah,
bring up a
it's
good, yeah.
the good thing is that technology is improving, that all you got to do is 3 days before your flight leaves, you go book it, and there's a 99% guarantee that you'll get your visa regardless. Especially while the American passport is still pretty powerful. There's a lot of it where you can just, say, go online to the government website and say why you're traveling, how long you're traveling, who's your emergency contact. Those are pretty much the questions they ask. But make sure it's one of those ETA visas that you can just get online 3 days before you arrive in your country. And it's pretty simple. There's
Oh,
very few denials for those.
oh
So,
wow. Okay, so ETA visa
hmm
and just answer the questions as asked.
yep,
You're pretty much solid.
yeah. Pay
Interesting,
the
fun thing.
fee, answer the questions. All right, come on in.
Okay. All right. All right. Last one before you get out of here. What is something you would like to leave for the listeners to kind of take away from our conversation?
Be even more empathetic when you travel. And when you do travel, be even more empathetic when you travel. Yeah,
All right. Be empathetic.
yeah,
That's the title.
yeah.
Zaakirah, thank you for hopping on the Pay Me and Plan Tickets podcast. It's wonderful having you on. I can't wait to be down in Atlanta and connect even further. But for the listeners, I think there's a lot that they're going to take away from this conversation. And I think there's a lot of growth that's going to come out of this conversation between us and also with the audience at wide. I just want to thank
Absolutely.
you for hopping on.
Thank you.
Hello, my fellow ticketers. Before we close this podcast episode, I want to mention that Zaakirah will be hosting a Journey Back to Eden New Year's Eve event at the close of this year, and then launching in 2026 on January 8th, 9th, and 10th. She'll be hosting the Sanaa Nomads Retreat for anybody who wants to join and all who wants to participate. You can learn more about everything that Zaakirah is doing at our website, zaakirahnayar.com. I'll spell it out for everybody. ZAAKIRAHNAYYAR.com.